You're watching The Beer Garden, your landscape industry podcast that's best enjoyed with a beverage.
Welcome to the Beer Garden with I'm Brandon, and over there is Jason. Jason, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. That was good. That felt minorly uncomfortable because I've never heard you do the
overtook
intro.
the primary co-host.
So, yeah, that was good. I'm doing well. I had a very busy day, I feel like, but I really just sat at my computer all day. What about you?
I also sat in this garage all day long and ready for a beer and the Beer Garden and some talk. I have something to share with you.
Okay.
So this product I just got off Amazon. It came today. I'm very excited. This is an inflatable an inflatable bar for my hot tub. So
that's awesome.
A little floaty that you can in this they have like pomegranates and stuff.
Yeah, that's not what you're going to use it for.
But I've been having this is probably not very hygienic, but I've been having chips in the hot tub while I have my laptop placed on the edge watching shows.
Nice.
So that's been my life some evenings, and I thought what a nice addition it would be to just have a little floating bowl in there.
That's great.
When the Jets come on, though.
Yeah, that could throw you for a loop. Will you bring that if we go camping this summer?
I don't know. Would you use that like on a lake? I don't know.
Maybe. We used to have a party barge, is what we would call it, but it was just this giant inflatable like island with it. Basically, it looked like a big donut. So there was a hole in the middle, and then everything around the side. Like it was big enough to where you could like on the sides lay down, and then it had cup holders in it. It had little floaties for your cooler, so your cooler would attach to it and everything. It was great. Party barge.
Like 10 tabs open while searching for the best inflatable bar, and some of them had drink holders and all kinds of like an iPad mount and stuff like that. But I just thought I just need a square thing to hold chips, because you don't want your drink to float away and your iPad would just be like spinning around in the jets. It doesn't make any sense.
I love this just was a really great picture into Brandon's mind. I just need a square thing to hold chips. That's all I need.
Exactly.
That's on your priority list right now. Nice. What are you drinking today?
Well, I'm just finishing up this Cinco Drink Co. tequila soda line, but that's not the feature beverage.
All right.
The feature beverage is this Wild Rose Brewery, Calgary Brewery.
Okay.
I believe it's in the Curry Barracks. We do have a military barracks, but that's now under residential neighborhood. Wild Rose, and it's called Big Hoodoo.
Ooh.
You know what a hoodoo is? Do you have hoodoos, or is that just okay?
Is it like voodoo?
Nope.
Okay.
A hoodoo is like in a Badlands. Do you call them that?
Yeah, we have Badlands. I don't know what they are.
Area, is that considered that?
The what?
Like the Grand Canyon, is that considered?
I actually don't know. I don't even know what Badlands are. I assume Badlands was like, I think of South Dakota when I think of Badlands, but I could be completely wrong about that.
Okay. It's Drumheller is where hoodoos are from nearby here. Drumheller has the Royal Tyrrell Museum. Little geography lesson for you and lesson about my area. It has a dinosaur museum called the Royal Tyrrell. You go there on field trips when you're in school, and they have the Albertosaurus. There's an actual dinosaur named after Alberta, probably discovered in Drumheller. And it's got all these kind of stone pillar things, and those are what hoodoos are. I think. Hopefully I got that right. I'm pretty sure.
All right.
Sounded convincing.
Did we drive by this place? Did they have a giant dinosaur like
Yes.
somewhere in the town? Okay.
I don't know why we were out there, but yes.
Probably driving to Vancouver.
That would be the wrong direction.
Okay. Then I have no idea.
don't have a very good sense of direction. Yeah, they're very cool. So look it up. Hoodoo's, maybe post a picture or something for me when you're doing the editing there.
All right. Yeah, there you go.
Hoodoo's, Drumheller, Alberta. Yep. So it is a craft lager. I've never had it before, but I bet it's really good. And look at this guy on the can.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
I would say that is Falcon.
Yeah, I think you're right. Cowboy Falcon.
Yep.
Nice. All right.
You got
I am also finishing one up, but I'm about to crack a new one, and it's the same thing. Anyways, this is from True Brewing Company, Colorado Brewing Company. They're awesome. I've featured one of their other beers. Actually, I even know what episode it was on. It was on the Lessons from the Music Industry episode, because True Brewing is the one that has like they love beer and death metal music, so all their stuff is like death metal sort of stuff. And this one is it's an IPA, and it is called the Tunnel of Trees. And it's got this
wow,
really
that one
cool...
looks actually pretty cool compared to
Right?
what you usually drink.
it does look pretty cool.
The can.
Yeah, these guys have good labels, good beers, and a really cool spot. Like their brewery is pretty cool.
Well, I'm coming to Denver soon in like 3 weeks. So maybe we'll record some live ones or like in-person ones, I should say. Maybe we'll do them live too. Who knows? And yeah, let's just cheers. Get on with the damn episode. Cheers.
All right. Today we are talking about route density. So this
what
is
a transition.
Yeah, right. Do you like that?
Very exciting.
Couldn't think of a good segue. That's it's the end of the day. We should really record these earlier before our brains are fried.
And we drink beers early.
Yeah. So we're talking route density. Essentially, like, it's pretty simple, especially in a maintenance company. Less drive time equals more billable time. So more profit equals higher paid staff, more competitive pricing, and owning an area, which I think is a really like big deal and cool thing. So overall, just, I think this is just an important topic as we get into the start of the season here. I would encourage everyone to kind of take some of the best practices from this episode and evaluate your own routes prior to the start of the season. And hopefully we can help you out with your labor expense as we enter the season, because that is your biggest expense.
Just in case some listeners don't refer to it with the same terminology or something, density is just how close your sites are together. So
yeah,
simple as that.
There's
your
probably
shop,
like
actually, like if you included your shop,
right.
Yeah.
Probably like a scientific term for density, but that's our definition.
Sounds pretty. Yeah. Sounds pretty scientific and pretty.
All right. So why does it matter? Let's get into it.
Well, the more there's a lot of advantages to having high density. You would have obviously more billable time. That's the main thing, like you mentioned. So you're paying your staff for 8 or 10 hours a day. The more time that they're spending on sites and the less time behind the wheel or driving, the better. That's the main one. Certainly reduces things like fuel costs, maintenance costs on the truck and trailer. Simplified logistics. It improves customer response time too. So if there's a service call or something like that you have to go back and fix, you're not on the other side of the city or really far away. Hopefully you're just around the corner and the crew can swing back around and fix something up quite efficiently. I guess those are the main ones. Like you quickly mentioned there, like you get to kind of own an area. Like I feel like you start to build up like a critical mass. Like everybody just starts seeing your trucks all the time in a certain area, and it just makes marketing a lot easier. You can really just hammer that one area and establish yourself in it. You can start to do things like hire staff that are from that area. if they're going to be in that area all day, things like that. So
yeah. It's cool. I like to think of it almost as like you hear big businesses all the time talking about like grabbing market share and talking about like market share, and all they're talking about is like they have this target addressable market, like what percentage of that can they get, and they have an expectation of what they can achieve. I think of it the same way, but this has like a geographical element to it, right? So I know typically like if we can get up to like 20% of the homes in a given neighborhood, then we've basically taken all the market share in that neighborhood, because on average, that's about the amount of people on the residential side that will hire out lawn care in a neighborhood. So
cool. Nice.
that's like our target kind of market share when we go into a neighborhood. And it does feel good to kind of take that over and you become kind of the staple in that area.
Totally.
So there's a lot of advantages to doing this. You talked about some of the advantages, but also there's like some costs associated with not doing it, right? Some obvious
Sure.
and some not so obvious. So obviously you already mentioned this, but like just drive time in general costs money, and no one's generating excuse me, no one's generating revenue during that time.
Yeah.
Obviously that can trigger a lot of overtime as well. So, you plan your routes out based on like, a lot of times people plan their routes out based on the service time. And the more drive time you add, the more likely you are to push into overtime.
And like traffic, like if you're far away,
Yeah.
if your sites are far away, there's more of a chance that traffic could impact the route itself.
Totally.
Just, there's randomly one day there's an accident. The more road you have to cover, the more chance there is that something like that could happen.
Yeah, and the greater chances are that like your team could be involved in an accident. Like just by way of driving more, you increase your chances of driving related risks like accidents or even just tickets, moving violations, that sort of stuff. So cutting down on drive time is always good. This one I've noticed is just like, we all like to think this won't happen, but inevitably I just see that it does. Is like the more drive time you have, the more opportunity there is for crews to kind of like stretch that time out, right? Like if they're in the vehicle more, like what I mean by that is like taking the scenic route, taking the long way to the next job site.
Or they're passing a Tim Hortons. They're like, oh, dang, I better stop in and get some Timbits or something.
Totally. Yeah. So, the more drive time there is, the more opportunity there is for that. And then just like fragmented scheduling and stress on dispatchers as well. So like you mentioned it, but just like that service call that comes up where it's like, oh, we got to go hit this site, but the crew's now like all the way over here and they're nowhere near that site. That happens a lot for us with like irrigation, especially where it's like you get an emergency all of a sudden. It's like water's gushing out. And so it's like you like, if you have your crews kind of bouncing all over the city in a given day, maybe they're at that site earlier in the day, but now they're clear on the other side of town. And like now they have all this drive time to get back there. And now you've got frustrated customers because they just, they want to do there quicker.
Yeah. So what are some of the strategies to, build better route densities? Like what are some technologies, those types of things that you've got experience with or you've used in the past?
Yeah, so technology I think is like one of the first things that you can use, and there's a lot of GPS like actual routing tools out there. I mean, even just like Google Maps, right? Like plugging your stops into Google Maps. Remember MapQuest?
Hell yeah.
We used to use MapQuest way back in the day.
You print them out?
Yeah, we would print out the directions, the turn-by-turn directions, and that was our version of Siri back in the day.
Nice.
But yeah, so there's tons of tools out there. The one that we use and love within our company is called Route for Me. It's not actually built for contractors or for the trades. It's built for
more for like taxi companies and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, and like delivery routes. So like
Right.
Amazon and UPS and those sorts of things. It's built on a platform called Near Maps, which is like what I think it's called Near Maps. No, it's called Here. Near Maps is an aerial imagery company. Yeah. It's called Here. And that's the same platform that like Amazon uses. So, and that's the key here is like other industries have figured this out, right? Like delivery companies, they really have to worry about density. Anyone with like heavy logistics like that, Hector, who works with both of us with like a trucking company or an oil and gas company, like they really have to worry about these logistics. So there's lots of resources out there for stuff like this, and it doesn't have to be industry specific. The solution we use is not. And then a lot of our industry specific CRMs do have some of this functionality built in as well.
Right. So, and they'll have things like heat maps and many different kinds of ways that you can look at your sites and kind of just make better decisions in general. If you have GPS in the trucks, then you can start geofencing territories, geofencing the crews, those types of things. But that's kind of summary of that. The next thing is really, you have to define where you want to go, you have to pick at some point. What happened to us was that, we did it the wrong way for so many years that we had to pick once we already had a bunch of sites scattered all over the city. And on one hand, I think that's just kind of a little bit how it is when you're starting out in commercial and condos, actually, specifically, because you kind of just have to say yes a few times. You can't just get in with commercial and condos by saying no to the very first site you ever get offered, right?
Right.
So we ended up with sites all over the place, but eventually we had to set our service zones and start saying no once we kind of had a reputation built up with them. A different story with residential, because the marketing's a lot different and there's a lot of smaller relationships. So I would presume, you know better than me, but I would presume in residential, you can really just say, you know what, this is where our shop is. This is, this neighborhood meets the yard size, or like they're more affluent. Maybe they're more, that community is like a lot of rentals. So, I can't charge as much there, or whatever the case might be. Different story with residential, single
for sure. Excuse me, for sure. And generally, in a perfect world, you get on top of this when you're starting out and you just limit your service area to a really small area starting out, and that's what you're doing. And then as you expand, you're slowly expanding outward and outward. It doesn't always work that way. But the key is as you expand and your service area is larger, it's still divided up into what we call zones, right? Like little buckets. Actually just pulled our map up. I can show you an example of this just to give an example of kind of how we did it. But, and I know you have a similar thing, Brandon. I actually learned this from you. But our shop is located, it's this little blue pen right here as I zoom in. So the first areas that we
Yours
service
looks way better than mine. It's so clean. Young grasshopper.
Areas that we serviced were just this green area right here, because that was more of our target neighborhoods. Then we expanded into this yellow area where our shop is actually located. Then we started expanding kind of west of I-25. I-25 is one of our main corridors that goes right down the middle of our service area here. So we started expanding west over in this area, then north just up into this red area. Then that was it for a long time. So we just had.
So what borders those? How do you decide on where they start and end and don't bleed into one another?
So for us, we use the actual zip code boundaries. Or postal code for you Canadians.
Exactly.
We use the boundaries of that. And the reason that we do that is for our services doing residential, we do a lot of self-serve scheduling, right? So we needed some sort of agreed upon boundary that we could reference to allow customers to schedule themselves, right? So it'd be a lot harder to put on the website Broomfield, everything west of I-25 and east of this.
Right? Yeah, okay, I see now.
Yeah. So we just say this zip code, this zip code, this zip code can schedule on this day in this time block, right? And so
that's why yours looks so nice compared to mine, because ours would be more we have similar size businesses.
Yep.
I have 85 to 90 customers.
Yeah.
How many do you have recurring residential and commercial combined?
For recurring residential and commercial combined, we probably have about 450.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big
and
difference.
And then for one-off services on top of that, because we have to worry about density with one-off services too. We'll service anywhere, I don't know, like thousands, like anywhere between like 4 to 8,000 a year on one-off
Right.
services. So, and that's arguably like more important, right? Because those one-off
Oh, yeah.
services are low average job size. So I can't have a crew going up here in this red area and then later that day being down here in this blue area. Like that just would never work. So what we do is actually like the crew is only going to be in this green area today, the one crew, right? And then the next day they might be in this blue area over here. So yeah, and we just built this out over time. Like I said, we started up in just this north area, then we expanded down into this kind of what we now call central area, and then most recently we've added the south. So these two kind of purple and dark blue down here, and we also added this yellow and orange up here on the northwest side. So
Cool.
yeah, that was kind of how we
Ours-
did it.
What I was going to say there is ours are not bordered by postal code, and that's because we have such a different business. Even though our businesses do around the same revenue, we have so much fewer sites to visit. It's more based on what the crews can reach.
Yeah.
So like we might have like a river that's a border because there's no easy road to cross. Things like that. Yeah.
Cool. Makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know if it does. Could be doing it wrong, but I think that's right. Yeah. So another, some other things that you might think of when you're setting your service zones and you're just trying to increase your density, limiting the crews that roll out like on a day-to-day production level to do a specific service so they don't have to come back to the shop. So that applies a lot to enhancement crews. Like you want to avoid as much as possible, like them doing a mulch job in the morning and then doing like a tree pruning job or a tree install or whatever in the afternoon, and they have to go back to the nursery one more time or back to the shop one more time. Confusing to pick up tools. They're more likely to forget tools, that kind of thing. So yeah, single service in a single zone per day. If you can pull that off, you can of course crutch that up with good marketing and really planning ahead and really good systems. Yeah. Anything else on just like the setup and choosing zones?
Just one thing. This is less about choosing zones, but more how you operate within those zones. One thing that we've learned as we expanded, and now we have like multiple crews, like lots of crews out on any given day, right? Multiple crews doing the same thing, right? Like we now have like each one of those zones, like a lot of our zones require like multiple days worth of routes in those zones, right? And it used to be what I would do. I used to actually work the crews away from each other and toward each other through the week. So like one crew would start up north, another crew would start down south, and then they would kind of flip flop throughout the week. I got away from that. And my thought with that was like, well, if this crew for whatever reason
sites between if they're behind. Is that what it is?
If they're behind, they have weather, whatever, and they can't mow on Monday, for example. Well, this crew's going to be back up there by Wednesday or Thursday, right? And so we could just put it on their route. But what I found was what's way more common is that like there's an issue during the day that like really we could have just saved during the day and not had to move it to a different route. So now we try to
both of them together, like not together, but like nearby.
Yeah.
I see. That's smart.
Either in the same zone or in like neighboring zones, right? Depending on what they're doing. So that way, if this crew blows a tire on a trailer and they're stuck on the side of the highway and this other crew's just slamming through their day, we can start pulling stops off of that crew and putting it onto the other crew. So it allows us to be much more flexible during that actual day. For different scenarios, and even crews that aren't performing the same services, I do the same thing with. Like I'll keep an irrigation crew in an area that there's a crew doing like aerations and lawn services and that sort of stuff, because sometimes it's just like bodies, right? Like it's like, oh, this guy got sick in the middle of the day and we just need like another body on the crew. Or like we got an aerator stuck in the backyard. We just need an extra set of hands to lift it up these stairs to get it out. Like whatever it may be. Now you have a bunch of people on hand in like a very tight, dense area. We use it a lot for cleanups too. Like that, it comes up all the time with cleanups where it's like our truck is completely full. We're going to have to come back to the shop. I'm like, don't come back to the shop. Leave the burlaps on the sidewalk. And the next crew who's not completely full
Like
is just
the
going to
irrigation
swing
guys
in
or
and pick it up.
somebody can grab it.
Totally.
That's really smart. That's a good tip. Yeah. We do it the first way for snow, or that's the way I've always thought of it. Is, you know, start them apart, and then because snow is like a 1-day route, you know, like a cut route is like typically 5 days long.
Yeah.
So if you get behind on Monday, you can work along Tuesday, but on a snow day, you have to get everything done the first day. And so, you know, we have crews that meet in the middle, and the middle will shift a little bit, like because the first crew might do the last sites of the other crew at the end of their day. Sorry, that was a confusing way to explain it, but I think everybody got it.
I think that makes total sense for like a single day route like that, because then they're working toward each other and they can pick up slack. It's the same kind of concept.
Yeah. Cool. So tell me a little bit about the marketing side of this. Like, you know, now we've picked our areas, we know where we want to work. What are some of the marketing things that have worked well for you? And just define, if you can, like if they're applicable to single family more than commercial and multifamily, define that as you go.
You know, unfortunately, probably one of the most effective marketing strategies that we've ever had, we don't use anymore. Well, we don't use it anymore. Like and you know this one, and it's very much just applicable to residential. Like this wouldn't work for commercial, but we wanted density in certain neighborhoods. So what we would do is we would take those little flags that you mark utilities with, those little like
irrigation flags.
Yeah, irrigation flags. And we would get those custom printed with our pricing information for all our one-off services. So like aeration, fertilization, sprinkler activation, sprinkler winterization, our website, phone number, QR code, all that stuff. And then we would just buy thousands of them. Like generally, I think our order was like 50,000 that we would order per season. And then we were,
I've heard this before. It's like, I've never heard anyone else doing this. It's so silly.
We would block out like 1 week out of the year where we weren't actually, no one was out producing like actual work. Everyone was marketing. And what we would do is everyone would get boxes of these flags. They would get on rollerblades or on a bike and they would cruise through the neighborhoods. And you would just throw, like literally throw, because if you get really good at it, you can just throw the flag and it'll stick straight up in the ground. You don't even have to stop. So you just cruise by the houses. Every house in the neighborhood gets a flag right in the corner of the yard next to the driveway and sidewalk. And it was just quicker than doing door hangers. We started with door hangers or like little flyers pasted to the, or not pasted, taped to the front door.
Spray painted phone number on the front door.
Yeah. But it just like, the act of going up the driveway to the door took too long. So it was just like anything else. We were trying to figure out how to be more efficient. So we figured out these flags and we could just launch these flags up. And we had guys who could put anywhere from like 2,000 was the base minimum per day, but we had guys who would do like 5,000, 6,000 in a day that they could get out. And it was very, very effective. We got by far the most leads from that, but we stopped.
750 an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's, well, yeah. Okay. That makes sense. That's only 13 a minute. So, I mean, if you don't take any breaks.
Yeah. It got really efficient when e-bikes came around, because then you don't even have to pedal. You just rip down the sidewalk with an e-bike. But the reason that we don't do that anymore is it was very effective for a long time. And people like thought of it as very, like, generally the feedback we got early on was like, oh, small business, like that's really cool, like this is innovative, this is neat. But then we became kind of the big company in these areas, and then the tone completely shifted. It was just like, you're littering in my neighborhood, the neighborhood
That's
looks
so
like
funny
shit.
how that works, eh?
Yeah. And this is trash. And then ultimately what really forced us to stop doing it is Yeah. Many of our we did put on the flag like, please reuse this. Please
Yeah,
save
right.
and reuse
Reuse
to
for
mark your
what?
sprinklers. To mark your sprinklers for
Oh,
the
okay,
aeration.
sure. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No, that does make a lot of sense.
And we had, what was funny actually, we had customers who, like, when we would come to aerate their yards, it was like a museum of our flags over the years. It was like they had flags that were like 15 years old. You could
could
see
have
the
made them
different
collector's editions.
yeah,
Like this
they,
is the 2012 edition or whatever.
you could see our pricing increases over the years because they had all 15 years of but
That's so
yeah,
funny.
what really pushed us out was a lot of the cities and municipalities started to change. We were really good about knowing what we were and weren't allowed to do in all these areas. And a lot of places started to change their laws and codes. And so I remember getting a call telling me that we were going to get a $125 littering fine for every single flag that was out in the city unless we came back and picked them all up. And so that was about enough to make us stop doing that.
At 6,000 per day
Yeah.
times however many people it
Yeah.
is. Yeah. Damn. Well, that's pretty awesome. So, I mean, obviously, some other more obvious ones. That's a great idea. Somebody please do that and send me some photos.
Yeah.
Direct mail, postcards, door hangers. If you've never done direct mail, I haven't either, but I know that you can do it through the post office and you can select postal codes. So you can really direct your direct mail.
Yeah. And in the States, just really quick plug on that, they call it every door direct mail through the United States Postal Service. And basically what that means is you don't need the addresses, like all this stuff doesn't have to be labeled by address. You just have a label on it that's specific to them. They have certain size guidelines, but basically the postal worker gets just, you give them like crates of these things and all they have is a zip code on it and they say resident or whatever, and every home on their route gets one of those mailers. So and the
Very
cool part about that is like the online website where you set that up gives you demographics about each like postal route too, so you can see like average income, like different things like that would be relevant to like determining your target neighborhood that you want to hit.
That's a good source for choosing then.
Totally,
really good.
Absolutely.
Cool. Of course, doing door hangers, when you are trying to build in a neighborhood, like giving a bunch to your crews so that it's, put 5 down each direction on every house that you cut. People have heard of that a million times, I'm sure. Asking for referrals, getting good at, really hyper targeting your digital ads. That's another option. Don't ask me how to do that, but I know it's effective.
Talk to JB about that.
Yeah, our guy JB.
Really quick, I just want to, if I have it here, I should have really had this pulled up if we were going to do this. Maybe I don't have it. All right, carry on. Oh, no, here we go.
Okay.
Sorry. We can show you, we talked about like that, using that site to target the neighborhoods that you want to service.
Okay.
And you can actually add that into like your custom map on Google. So we figured out, like, we used that site to cross-reference. Like for us, it was
The postal code site or the post office site?
Yep. So for us, it was like neighborhoods that have an average income over $100,000. So each individual makes over $100,000. We just found that was like our kind of ideal neighborhood to be in, and then we actually mapped that out on our maps, which I'm trying to get pulled up here. So you can see like these are our zones that we had before, but within each of those zones, we actually targeted the specific neighborhoods. If I can get these zips up, there you go. So you can see like these are all the target neighborhoods within those zones. And you can see over here, I've outlined like what the average income is in each one of those neighborhoods. And so you can kind of overlay that over your zones that you service. So it's just
really cool.
a helpful way to kind of identify target areas.
Nice. Yeah, that's really good. Okay. So one specific to commercial and condos, I'll say, it's a little bit, it's quite a different approach. Like I'm not saying the things we mentioned won't work at all, but a lot of door knocking and door hangers and stuff like that, especially if it's like an apartment building.
Yeah.
Number one, it might be against their bylaws, or there might be just there's commonly signs up. You can't just door knock in like a condo complex or townhome complex. Oftentimes, you'll get a angry HOA Karen after you, which is the most the highest,
The worst kind of Karen.
It's the final form of Karens.
It's the final boss.
And you'll get them chasing you down the street. So the best way, this is kind of a long game, and I've talked about this in a lot of episodes before, probably, because it's like my jam. But it's building a database and doing that over time. So when you're selecting a neighborhood, if you're exclusively doing condos and commercial, you're going to want to select neighborhoods with lots of those types of properties. Of course, not like one commercial strip mall. Well, you're not going to get much density. So you want to select places with lots of the property you want, and then start recording addresses, building owner or property manager names, every piece of information you can in a spreadsheet if that's all you have, and if you have a CRM like Element or HubSpot is the one that Jason and I both use and recommend. Build it in there. And then over time, you do basically the same thing that Jason showed. You have the zip code or the postal code for every one of those properties. You know the postal codes that you want to service, and you can filter your list down by postal code, and then call the property manager and say, hey, property manager, I'm interested in Village Springs Heights Point, whatever it's called. And then that strategy is different than what I see most contractors do, where they just wait for the PM to call and offer them an opportunity, or they just call the PM and say, hey, do you have any properties? It's a lot different when you can call them and say, I'm interested in these 3 that you manage, or email them, right? So much different, and that's how you build data. That's how you build density in commercial and condos.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. That's a good one. Just a couple other quick ones. Like, we do occasionally offer group discounts or neighborhood discounts, specifically for our one-off services, right? Where we really want to get like a crew just parked in a neighborhood for a day. So we'll like post something in Nextdoor that says like, if you schedule on this day, then we're going to give you, call it $5 off your service or whatever. And then we end up just parking a crew in that neighborhood all day. Sometimes
that's a cool one and I know you do this in HOAs. So it's like you do the community area, the HOA, the park, and the meridian or median or whatever it's called. And then you get them to promote like, hey, on Tuesday, if you want your house done, you can get an aeration for 10% off, or a weed control or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's like super good density.
Yeah, if you can just park a crew all day and they literally don't have to move their truck other than to and from the shop, that's the ultimate density. The only thing would be better is if they just started their day at that site and never had to like leave. They didn't have to drive.
Which is realistic.
Anywhere. Yeah,
like
totally.
If you have some of the biggest contracts in town, like a big university campus or something.
Yeah. And then one just kind of honorable mention I wanted to throw out there. We actually haven't used this platform before, but we're talking about it quite a lot this year. Is a platform called Lob, which is kind of cool for direct mail. So in this case, it's not an every door direct mail. You actually do need an address. But an example of like how we're thinking about using it is there's a lot of databases out there where you can get like new home sales, for example, like when someone moves into a new home, and you can filter that list down by zip code. And so what Lob does is it can link to your CRM, and it automates direct mailers. So like if we have like a list, for example, that is like the Lob list in our CRM, anytime a new like property gets added to that list, it automatically shoots it in the Lob, pulls the contact information, pulls the address, and sends the mailer that you already have set up in Lob automatically. So it just automates all that. And really pretty cool little site. So there's definitely some cool things you can do with that. I can't say that we've used it yet, but we've explored it pretty in depth.
Cool. Couple of quick ones, like if I was at the stage where I was looking to acquire other companies, I would be definitely considering their density and how it mixes in with mine. So that's a possibility, or even not an entire company. Maybe you can acquire a route, or you notice another contractor that kind of dabbles in your area, but they don't have a big presence. Maybe you can buy some contracts off them. I'm not huge on that. Like, I would just try to win them myself most of the time, but worth thinking about and considering. Another one could just be, partnering with other companies. So other service providers. Maybe there's maybe you don't do weed control and there's a weed control provider that services your area, and you can refer one another, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times referral agreements work better, surprisingly, than subcontractor agreements. I think it's people that are, well, I don't know, I won't qualify it that way, but you can gain a lot more business sometimes from just like, hey, I refer everybody that asks me for weed control or irrigation to that company, and they therefore refer everything they don't do to me. Then you get a lot more business that way than I take a 10% cut for everything I refer to them, and then I manage it in-house. And
well, there's no markup on it then, so it's like you're not having to add a layer of markup for that like subcontracting.
And you can talk about that in the sales, presentation, or when you're speaking with the customer, to say, look, there's no financial arrangement here between me and irrigation company X over there. We just really like their work, and they make our sites look awesome. So we love having them. Like, we love when our customers use both of us. And
right.
Yeah, it just sounds great. So
awesome.
Yeah, if you're trying to meet those people, by the way, like, you're kind of new in business, you don't know the competitors in town. Any kind of networking opportunities, obviously, a lot of nurseries have those types of things. Any peer groups, local peer group type things, you can just obviously call them up as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So moving on to the next thing, I want to give you the floor a little bit because you've done a really good job with this. I learned this entirely from you, but you called them micro shops, I believe. We call them satellite shops. But tell me a little bit about this, because when I learned this from you, it was like my mind was blown the first time I remember learning about it.
Yeah, so it's a fancy term. Micro shop is a fancy term for a sea can in a parking lot. Usually, well, it could be anything. It's a starting and ending location for your crews that's meant to be close to their routes. So it could be a sea can in a yard that you just rent a parking stall or two in. It could be a storage unit. A lot of companies run from storage units, like 10 by 10s or 10 by 20, whatever storage units. Those are awesome, like to get a start at this. But we have found it to really, really improve our utilization, and obviously improves because it improves density so much. The crew, starts their day right near all of their sites, and and finishes their day there. They leave the truck there, and then they get themselves home from that location. It removes a lot of congestion from your main shop, so it can really extend the amount of time where you need to upgrade your main location. Right? Like, if you had to run all of your crews from your main shop, well, now we're at a shop space there, and there's so much congestion in the morning. You can try staggering your start times, and there's other strategies to alleviate that, but it really helps with those things and density. It can help with recruiting, like when you're sitting down at your main shop, and you should put this in your job ads too, but just say, hey, we have 4 locations. We have 6 locations in our city. Whereabouts are you from in the city? And they'll say, oh yeah, well, I'm actually way down in the south, kind of far from your main shop, and they're kind of bummed that they think they have to get there every day. And you say, well, actually, we have something 5 minutes from your house down there, and they're looking for workers there as well. That's a huge plus. Like, the commute time, of course, is a huge plus for workers. For marketing, you can then say, hey, we hire local people. If you're in a market where you have like smaller cities or towns around, your main hub, the smaller the town or city, the more that I find that they value when you can say like we hire local people, and we're not like bringing them from the big city. I don't know exactly why that is. I mean, they just want to keep their economy like hyper local, I guess, which is really cool. But it's a marketing opportunity there. Of course, yeah, just less all the things we mentioned earlier about drive time or about density, just like less drive time and all of those things. Disadvantage to it is your crews are broken up, so your culture gets a bit. You have to really pay attention to your company culture because you'll have a slightly different one in each zone because they don't mesh as much. It's a little harder to send out have like a company wide talk like you might in your shop every Monday morning or whatever. Things like that you need to come up with strategies around. Certainly like security, like you got C-can in a dark alley or something, like prime theft location or something. So yeah, anything else that comes to mind for you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, just some of the logistics around it, I guess. Like in Colorado, this wouldn't matter as much, but I know in your area, like you had to like actually heat some of these sea cans and like insulate them and things of that nature. And I think you did some really cool things to make that happen. But obviously, you're going to want to think through those things if you're storing equipment on site. You got to think around. Security is the big one, but also like heat,
Like
light.
zoning too, like is worth considering.
Yeah.
You choose if you want to break the rules on it or not. But we did have a problem where we found a large condo complex that allowed us to put a 20-foot C-can in kind of this like little concrete area, and park our trucks near it. And eventually people complained that we were running a business off the property, and it's a residentially zoned property you're not allowed to run a business off of. So we got 30 days to move, and we did. So yeah, those are the things to consider, but highly recommend thinking of that.
Cool. Love that. Awesome. So now like you're starting to think about density, you're starting to take some action to like improve density. We've alluded to it a few times during this episode, but like what are the metrics that I should be measuring to actually like see if this is working and like measure success?
Definitely you want to measure things down to the crew level, and ideally down to if you have micro shops serving an area and there's multiple crews, you've got a zone level that you can measure things down to. So take any metric. Let's use utilization because we've been talking about that, which is just the time your crews are spending on site, like billing customers versus not loading up, driving. So you can measure that at the individual crew level. You could measure it at the zone level. You could measure it at the company level. When you start putting these things in, if you have that data, you can see how much of an advantage you're getting, right? So if you ran everything from your main shop, you can see how bad your utilization is for every crew. Then if you moved to a zone-based model, you could then measure how much it's costing you for that. But like quick side note, like that's also how you figure out if you should move shops. Like if you don't want to do a zone model, that's how you decide if you should get the expensive shop in like the central location that's like higher rent or higher cost to buy, is utilization. Like, what does it cost me to add 20 minutes to drive time to all my crews every single day? And does that equal whatever the increased rent is? So like side tangent, but.
And related to that would be revenue per man hour. So like revenue per man hour is, it's very closely related to utilization, but it's ultimately just like total hours worked, both billable and unbillable time. So windshield time and on-site time. So total revenue divided by total hours worked. So revenue per man hour. that makes the equation for the moving shop example like very easy to track, right? It's like if we can increase our revenue per man hour from 50 to 75 just by moving shop, means every man hour that's worked, we're going to make an extra $25.
Your shop was like 6 hours out of town with it, if it makes that big of a difference.
Yeah, exactly. Some other metrics. So we talked about revenue per man hour, utilization. Before we had the data on all this stuff, we just did some simple ones like how many stops per day is each crew able to do? Like for us, it was pretty easy because the stops were all generally roughly the same size with residential, right? Like we were in just like suburban neighborhoods. So that one for a long time, that was like the only thing we were measuring. It's like, well, this crew did 20 stops and this crew did 30 stops in a day. And so we like, what was the difference there? How did we fix that? So that's just like a very
It's a good place
simple,
to start.
easy one. Yeah. Good place to start. Then like the next step up from that is like revenue per route. That's a little more accurate, right? Because the stops might be different sizes and those sorts of things. So then we started doing like total revenue per route. Overtime hours, that sort of stuff. And then we got into like revenue per man hour, utilization rate, those like the heavy hitters, which I think are like the gold standard. Like revenue per man hour and utilization, I think are like the two primary production metrics in my opinion.
Totally. Yeah, and estimated versus actual hours.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, put on par with those.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. I think that's getting close to the end of what I would have on this. Any other kind of like extra tools or extra tips or anything that you would give people? Or
No, I think we covered a lot of them honestly in the top. So like yeah, I think I don't really have anything else to add other than maybe a speed round.
okay, cool. I think you answered first last time, so I'll do
All
it this
right.
time.
You're going to answer first. All right. So, best resource on this topic.
I'm an LMN guy. And I have been for 8 years or something. So it took us a long time to set it up right, and I'll put an underline and a bold on setting it up right. There's a lot of different ways to do that. So certainly take your time and do that properly. The way that we build our routes for upcoming seasons, like when we're deciding where to sell more properties and things like that, is they have what's called a whiteboard. Think of it like a whiteboard with like Post-it notes on it with your days and your routes. We actually do that for like a year ahead. So we'll just say, okay, November 1st, 2026 or 2027, that's like our template week. And we kind of see the whiteboard on there, and then we can start putting our crews and moving all of the sites around as we sell them. Excuse me. And then we can really see how much capacity every crew has. And we're simultaneously doing that while having Google Maps open and adding our sites to it. So in your world, that probably sounds like a total hell because you have 5,000 customers or something. When you have 85, it's not as bad, So it depends which world you come from there, I would say. If it's all single family or bigger commercial sites. But
For sure.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Cool. Best advice or biggest win?
I mentioned earlier, but if I was doing any type business, any like single family or commercial, it would be building that database up. That's been my primary tool, and it adds a tremendous amount of value to your business. You can cross sell to it if you in the future add more services. Really getting that right, and then you can start building density off of that by narrowing by postal code.
Cool. Biggest mistake?
Not planning ahead enough. I didn't know then what I know now, kind of a thing. And hopefully this episode is helping people. It took me 11 years to learn these mistakes. So I said yes to properties I never should have. And then I had to disappoint customers and make property managers' jobs harder, which is like the worst thing you can do to a property manager if you want to get more work from them, by terminating, by firing customers, basically by saying, hey, I know I said I would take this property on. Maybe I did it for one season. Now I'm telling you I'm not going to do it again this season, and you're going to have to find somebody else. Right. That's a tough conversation to have. So, and it's costly to win the customer. It's costly to get it into your system and then get it out. It's just really plan ahead, a season or two. So
cool.
Yeah. How about you? What was your best resource for this topic?
I mentioned it earlier in the call, but Route for Me, that's the tool that we use for route optimization. And similarly to you, when we're building our routes for like recurring, so we use Route for Me for every type of route. For one-off services, it's great because we've built like some custom, linkage to all our stuff. So customers schedule themselves online and then it just pumps into Route for Me, and Route for Me puts them in the most efficient order. But for our recurring routes, we do a similar thing to you. Like as we confirm jobs, they go into Route for Me to build like what we call our master routes. And it's just like those master routes are ever evolving until we get to the season, right? So as we sell more jobs and get more jobs, things are like expanding and routes are splitting off into other routes because we built more density on this one. And now these routes are on a different route. And so similar to you, it's like,
yeah, it's amazing though. Like I think you have to be a lot more sophisticated when you're a large single family residential company. Like you just can't do that. If I had 4,000 condo customers, like big condo customers, like for one thing, I would be in multiple provinces probably if I did that. But it's just like the amount of routing you'd have to do. You need either tons of people or really good technology.
Right.
So,
yep,
cool. What's some of the best advice or kind of the biggest unlock that you had?
Yeah, biggest win I would say was just when we narrowed down our availability. It started with that online scheduler. That's what forced our hand, was to narrow it down by zip code, or postal code, how you were seeing on our map, and defining those zones really clearly. That it started because we were going to allow our customers to schedule themselves. So we had to get clear on defining what the boundaries were. But now it's just like ingrained in our business. Like even our crew, like leads and technicians, when you hear them talk in that way, they're like, no, we're in the Thornton zone today and tomorrow we're in the Erie zone. And what was really cool, I'd say like a recent win, is seeing a message in Slack where my production manager was, because we have availability by those zones and stuff, and because we put such a focus on density, I just recently, like last week, there was a message that went in Slack, and it was just a list of zip codes from our production manager to our marketing manager saying, I need more of these services in these areas, and just like pumping it to the marketing manager, which was really cool. I'm just like, oh, awesome. Like it's like it works.
And you've got it set up through custom software that you've kind of linked together, or you've built yourself, so that customers, if I lived in Denver and I wanted an aeration, I go on, enter my name and whatnot, put my postal code, and by postal code it reads your operations schedule to know how full that area is, and then offers me the day and time to tell me like, your crew might be there on Tuesday, but they're already full. So it says, hey, we'll be, Thursday afternoon. You can book, give us the $100 or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. It gives you a calendar where you can pick your date, but it's only showing you the dates that were in your zone and that we have availability. And the nice part about that is, because we're using all these tools kind of integrated, it's not just availability based on like estimated time on site. It's actually factoring in the crew's drive time for that day as well, because the route's already being optimized based on the stops that are on it. So it knows whereas we used to be just very like stop based. So we used to just say, yeah, route's full when it has 25 stops on the day. But then you end up having like way more drive time. You're like, shit, that crew was out till 8 p.m. because the density was
a little bit of drive time could represent like one more site for that day.
Totally.
Which is huge. Like if you can do 21 instead of 20 every Monday for the whole summer, that's a lot of revenue.
Yeah,
So,
our
really
our
cool.
average drive time for those one-off services, we target like a 1.5 to 2 minute drive when we're doing those one-off services. But that's because we're doing a lot of volume and they're small jobs, right?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, and that's pretty much. I know it links up with some pre-built software, but these are not softwares that integrate naturally. There's some custom coding that's been done to make these things work together.
Yeah,
from what I understand.
And it was all around this concept. Like the reason we did all that was specifically for this concept that we're talking about today.
Nice. Okay, not the speediest speed round, but what was your biggest? What was your biggest mistake on this topic? Would you say over the years?
Just expanding geographically, like into other zones. Like we had the zone concept down, but like rather than just like focusing on like some of those marketing things that we talked about early on and like let's really build density, let's define what our market share is in a zone and let's like go after that. We just used kind of gut and we're like, it feels like we can't really get any more customers in this area. Let's open up a new zone. And then like anytime you're opening up a new zone, you kind of have to be prepared to you have
may
to
make no money that year. Like that's what people need to understand is like it could really, really be a bullet you need to bite, that season until you can ramp it up. So.
Totally, because you're not going to have that density right away. You either have to be prepared to not make any money that first year or have your marketing and sales engine so dialed that the amount of time it takes to build density for a route when you enter a new zone, which is now where we're starting to get. But
and pre-plan that, right? So you could say, okay, in in fall, we know we're going to hit this in spring, and we're going to just blitz it, this postal code or this set of postal codes, rather than what I'm assuming you mean, because it's similar to what I did, was like, oh, we just got some customers in that area. Now we need to sell more customers in that area. And that's not preparing. Yeah, that's not a prepared, proactive approach. And you just screw yourself.
I will, like, I'm not going to pretend we have it completely dialed. There are still times we consider that. Like but now we know we have the data to back it up. So we know the decision that we're making. What I mean by that is like, we might get offered like a commercial site in like a zone.
Like we call them anchor sites.
That's
like
right.
You get
we do too.
Oh, cool. Probably got it from you. Yeah. A big anchor in one area. And then you say, well, shit, that's 75% of a crew. So yeah.
And we know too, like now we have the numbers and the data to support it. So we know, okay, we got this anchor site. It's going to cost us X amount of dollars to like fill the route now based on our marketing spend.
Cool. Yeah. And there is like last second things you can do to tweak the crew's capacity to match what you have sold. So it's like, oh, well, this instead of a 3-man crew, I guess it's 2 or something.
Totally.
You can do a couple things like that. Or you could sub something out, which we're not into, but some people do. Okay. Well, that's very good. Thank you, Jason. I'm like realizing that I'm just going to keep talking for another half an hour here about some other topic.
I watched that switch flip in your head.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to leave this episode until Jason holds his shirt up to the camera so we can all read. This is his lucky sales shirt that he wears to big sales meetings. So let me read this out to you. Hey, quick question. Are you fucking kidding me? That's what it says on his shirt.
You have to read it in like
he's in early 30s and it's like full on grown up.
I always picture this read in like Jason Bateman's voice. You know who that is?
I don't know his voice, but I don't read ahead. Like I know my tone was off on that.
But you don't.
But I can't see the words coming as I'm reading. I sound each one out as I go. I'm a very slow reader.
I hear it in Jason Bateman's voice, which I can't really do, but it's just his tone of how he delivers things, where it's very dry and straightforward, but it throws you for a loop. Where he's like, "Hey, quick question: are you fucking kidding me?"
I like that. I like that. You should have that sign up or something, like in your office. So when your staff come up, you can like, don't make me tap the sign kind of thing.
It's good.
Nice. I love that. Next episode, you can wear your hat. I saw a fairly offensive hat as well. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. What a cliffhanger. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, as a to-do for everybody out there, I would say no matter where you're at, audit your routes. Like, look at them. I don't know exactly when this episode will come out. Probably late April, maybe, Jason?
Yeah, about that.
Okay, so your guys are all in the shit right now. It's very busy, and you should have audited your routes 2 months ago, but you're going to do it this week now. And just really figure out where things are at. If you want some detailed help, I mean, I personally would be willing to, sit down for half an hour with somebody and just kind of have a chat with them and dive into their routes and tell them what I see. So if anybody wants to do that, let me know. And make sure you like and subscribe, and maybe Jason will put up the little graphic. I really like that on YouTube videos where they have the little bell and all that. Do that for us.
Yeah. All right. Just added 5 more minutes to my editing session.
Not my job, not my problem. Okay. Thanks, Jason.
Good thanks, Brandon. Cheers.
Yep. Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to The Beer Garden. Please find us on YouTube at The Beer Garden Podcast and subscribe, like, and enable notifications.